Hey Garth, how's it going?
Great, Jason. Always good to see you.
Hey Garth, you're from Ontario and we were
I sure
younger.
am.
This probably dates us a little bit, but there's a band that broke out in the 90s from Ontario and they're called the Bare Naked
Bare
Ladies. Do you remember
naked
those guys?
ladies.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. Jim Cregan lives around the corner from me still.
No way. Do you have a
Yeah.
favorite Bare Naked Ladies song?
I do. It's actually a cover of Lovers in a Dangerous Time.
Yeah.
I love that one.
Easy,
But
easy.
I mean,
That's
like Brian Wilson, like they're all good. They're all good. Yeah. I've never
Stephen
met a bare
Page.
naked lady song I didn't like.
Steve Page performed at one of our Heads and Chairs conferences, but and I really, really enjoyed that show.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, the song I want to enter into is "This Is Me in Grade 9." You remember that song?
Yeah, I do.
There's
This is
nothing
me
that
in grade nine, baby.
there's nothing that captured the Grade 9 experience better than that song.
Yeah.
Um, and today, Garth, we are talking about the adolescent mindset, aren't we?
Yes, we are. David Yeager. I'm getting the lyrics up. Like, I found my locker and I found my classes. I lost my lunch and I broke my glasses. This guy is huge. That girl is wailing. First day of school and I'm already failing. Like, thanks for bringing me back to this. Half my friends are crazy, the other half are depressed, and none of them can help me study for my math test. It's
And
great.
we have a book that is going to help
Oh,
you with these
yep,
problems, right? We're
we
talking
sure
about
do.
10 to 25 with David
Yeah.
Yeager. This is our intro pod to it. And then next episode, we have a chance to interview him, which I'm very, very excited about.
Yeah, and it's the neuroscience of understanding kids in these ages. So you'll hear about Vanderbilt Bridge Program. You'll hear about Greg Popovich and coaching the Spurs. You're going to hear a little bit too from Jason and I about how we can rehabilitate the reputation of puberty. So enjoy, listeners. This is a good one.
Yeah, let's get into this. Enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Lassoing leadership sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow.
Hey, folks, welcome back to Lassoing Leadership Season 3, Beard's Book Club. We're into another chapter, so to speak, of Beard's Book Club, our rolling experiment in reading, leading, and learning out loud.
And we are 7 books in, Garth. I wonder how
Somewhere like
many.
that. I think we're somewhere like that. Yeah,
Oh
seven
my
or
gosh,
eight. I can't remember.
I think we'll probably hit 15 by the time we're done here. We're just
Mm,
picking up steam. Like we've picked up book after book along the way, and we've gone from courage to culture. And I think one of the things we're about to hit on right now is this idea of 10 to 25, an incredible
yeah.
book by Dr. David Yeager.
Yes, we're talking about the ages of 10 to 25, that sweet, stormy, sometimes sweaty stretch of human development we call
Totally.
adolescence and adolescence plus. The author is basically asking, what if we've been misunderstanding that stretch of time, of growth all along? Now, my kids are in that age group. I've got a 15-year-old at present, and I've got a 17-year-old, two boys as well. So this book really spoke to me, Jason.
It's kind of weird is I've got an 8-year-old who's in that category, but a 10-year-old
Yeah.
who's not. So, I mean, I've got, and I'm like, Garth, I'm a junior high teacher. So this like just
Mm,
spoke to me, I fell in love with teaching kids in that kind of 10 to 16 year age group. But this
yeah.
book has really, created a new framework for me to think about it. So for generations, we've treated this idea of puberty as a problem to survive. And, David in this book says it's actually the most opportunity rich decade and a half of the human experience. I mean, this is
Yeah.
worth paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. And, David comes from a background of education, right? He's a junior high teacher too. And you guys
Mhm.
talk about that on the upcoming pod with him. It's pretty awesome. Um, as an educator, I never got comfortable with teaching anything under grade 9. I really loved like that the high school years, grades 9 to 12. And I'll tell you, like in my various roles over the years, traveling with students, student athletes, and then student social innovators and all that stuff. It is a wonderful opportunity rich time. So the author, I don't think it's anything new or surprising for those really deeply invested in education. he has 3 classic mindsets when dealing with young people, and he deep dives into each of them. So the first one is the enforcer, control first, i.e., do it because I said so. And the second one is the protector, sort of cushion everything, like let me fix it. And you think about, I mean, I'm thinking about times when I'm like running through airports with students, like trying to make a flight. It's like, I need the enforcer right now, like we're going, don't ask any questions. And also when we're traveling abroad, it's like, you're already doing a lot. Like we're in Cartagena or we're in Bogota. Like, I got it. Let me do this for you. But he argues that too much of any of these, or too much weighing in on both of those sides, is not good in the overall development. So he introduces this third path, which is the mentor. It's partnership. You've got this, and he uses this phrase, "I'll walk beside you," which I think is so powerful.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting here is this idea of mindset started with Carol Dweck, and her work on growth mindset. And David was able to study alongside both Dweck and Duckworth as he started to develop his own ideas about mindset. So I think mindset isn't necessarily a new idea for educators, for parents, for leaders, but I think the way that David addresses a mindset in the 10 to 25 age group is new. And I think it's novel, and I think it's interesting. It definitely speaks to me. I think it should speak to every coach, parent, and teacher and leader who are listening because they know that these 3 mindsets live somewhere inside of us. And ultimately, it's how do we leverage our awareness of these 3 mindsets into those times and spaces when we need to use them, and when is the mentor mindset maybe the most important one to think about.
Yeah, and so he gives us clues in our conversation, talks about how to choose that mentor mindset on purpose, right? He gives us the language to do it, and then gives us some look for us to be like, what's happening when you're too far into the enforcer or the protector.
And I don't know, Garth, like on our podcast, sometimes it feels like David is wagging the finger at us and saying, you can... Like, I think people are going to enjoy this conversation. But the book isn't really a finger wagging book. I think this book is offering, frameworks for communication and letting us know that each mindset sends a signal, to the adolescent we're working with, but also as the mindset manager, if you will, we have this opportunity to leverage these mindsets to better improve our communication and outcomes with adolescents in our lives.
Yeah, I think our listeners are really going to enjoy David's like tone and some of his sort of non sequiturs that are in there. Certainly some of his analogies and metaphors too. And it's funny because it's a long weekend here in Ontario, and so I'm watching Friday Night Lights, the series with Coach, and I'm seeing all of these things, right? So the enforcer sends signals of fear, right? The protector sends signals like you're to the kids, like you're too fragile. And I think the mentor mindset, depending on your tone and how you bring it across, the mentor mindset approach sends signals of faith, like you've got this, and I'm here for you. And sometimes, I really see that in Coach, with the Dillon Panthers and Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, I think it does definitely remind us that leadership, especially of young people, is mostly about tone and generally our curiosity. It's not lecture, it's in the language as we move ahead. And I think, this book and this conversation sets us up for more success in those areas.
Yeah, and even though the age range is 10 to 25, like it moves beyond that. Like it's emotional. It's kind of like emotional puberty, right?
It is.
That can flare up at any age. And so while this book is dedicated to this age group, the skills, the approaches, the mindsets are useful anywhere.
And I think, David's a master of this, but talking in metaphors, I think that's one thing, metaphors and analogies that make ideas sticky. I think whether it's for adolescents or for adults, and David does that really, really well. He is a master of them.
Yeah.
Garth, do you want to pull back the curtain on any of those for our listeners?
Yeah, and one of them is like a literal metaphor, and then he uses as a figurative one too. It's the Vanderbilt University Bridge Program. It's an actual program. It's a physics lab model designed to help underrepresented students transition into doctoral work. And the idea is don't just test readiness, build it. And the story around this is that the number one predictor of success in doctoral, explorations and stuff like that in physics is the number of articles you've written. The number one obstacle to get into these programs is your grade. And grades are generally, that sort of metric generally skews towards upper middle class schools, right? Parents who can support all of these things that we know to be true about marginalized groups. And so the Bridge program is a specific one to welcome underrepresented students into doctoral work and therefore let them not necessarily bypass the grades piece, but let them have their opportunity to show how much they know and how much they're capable of. And so in the book, he talks a lot about the Vanderbilt University Bridge program, which I thought was, it's just an incredible insight into culture, into accessing social prestige, which is something that David talks a lot about in terms of how youth in the age of 10 to 25 are motivated.
This is like a really, really good metaphor. You don't throw students off a cliff at the graduate level physics and yell, flap harder. You build the bridge of mentorship, feedback, and belonging. And I think that's, what David is driving home over the course of our conversation and this book.
Yeah, it's not lowering standards, it's increasing the scaffolding around them. And I think this program as a metaphor nails what the mentor mindset does. It designs the bridge so the learner can walk with it and not so that we carry them. It's guiding them into a different way towards success. Yeah.
And David, drives this home, this idea that you do it in school and sport and organizations. You create the bridge, not the bubble. And he talks about, high index care, high index rigor. And I think for me, that resonates when we talk about it. Well, anything else you want to kind of let our listeners in, Garth, before they get into this conversation?
Absolutely. We've talked a lot about baseball for a while on this season of the podcast, but let's go back a couple seasons and talk about basketball because we talked about that before. But he goes into this, he talks about the Spurs shooting coach and the sort of leadership of Greg Popovich. And there's been a lot around that. And what I loved about our conversation here is he highlights that the Spurs shooting coach makes micro adjustments. He's like, Jason, you've got a great jump shot. I'm just going to change one or two things. You still take your shot. I'm just going to ask you to change one or two things, an elbow here, a release point there, like one variable at a time. And I think that's really significant in terms of allowing that person to maintain their identity, but still accept that level of feedback.
No, it's like, and I think, Garth, if you take anything away from this podcast, the next podcast, I think it's important to realize that feedback is a partnership, not a punishment. And I think, in this relationship of high index care, high index rigor, that's what we're talking about. Is we're talking about, care, and we're talking about achievement, partnership, not punishment. And I think that is the breakaway idea, to use a basketball, pun.
That's
it's a breakaway.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a breakaway idea of this podcast.
Yeah. And, and again, the metaphor extends, whether you're mentoring a 16-year-old coder or a 40-year-old colleague, improvement comes from safety plus specificity. And this book is full of great examples that live that out.
I mean, we've been trying to get Dan Coyle on this podcast for a little while, and he talks about Popovich at length and the impact of his, relationship with players on the culture. And he talks about hugging them and holding them. He's this burly bear, that will, give you feedback in partnership, not as punishment, in an opportunity to improve. And, is accountability with affection, which, I think would be a pretty darn good subtitle for 10 to 25.
Someone call the publisher.
So let's hit the heart of the book. It's basically about rehabilitating puberty itself. I think it's putting a fresher, newer, maybe, healthier framework around it.
Yeah. I once heard Dr. David Suzuki, I don't know if he's a doctor, David Suzuki, talk about the development of the human brain. Super interesting. He says like the brain of a child is closer to the brain of an adult in the systems and structures within the brain. But the adolescent brain is it's like a house under extreme renovation. Things are happening all the time, building and changing and all that stuff. So that's what's like puberty is causing that. It's part and parcel of that. So I think the thesis of this book is, what if the way we talk to kids is the very thing that unlocks their courage? Not because we clamp down harder as an enforcer, not because we bubble wrap them tighter as a protector, but because we choose a third path, the mentorship. Like puberty isn't a problem, as you said earlier, to survive. It's actually it's potential to steward. So the thesis of the book is really, let's reframe the years, ages 10 to 25, like the brain's like innovation lab. It's when neural connections are pruned, identity is tested, empathy circuits expand. It's messy, it's emotional, and ultimately, it's work around potential, which I think is really cool.
I mean, these are conversation thoughts for anybody with an adolescent in their life, whether you're a parent, with adolescent, or you're a teacher or you're a leader. And when adults, really default to enforcer or protector, I think what we'll take from this is that we short circuit that growth, and we either crush experimentation or remove, the weight of complexity altogether. And I think either of those can be really detrimental to the overall development of that adolescent mind.
Yeah, and we're focusing. We'll find out more in our pod, but he's focusing on the mentor mindset here. This idea of let's lift it together. We don't pathologize the turbulence. We actually coach our way through it. And you and I know, you and I both coach. We've seen really good coaches. We've seen the impact of Bobby Knight on basketball teams. We've seen the impact of Greg Popovich as well. And I think we're starting to see more examples like Steve Kerr, more examples of coaches who really take the approach of, what you've got right now is amazing. Let's make it better, right?
Oh, Garth. And I love how he calls it the utility of puberty. I mean, the phrase alone should make every parent or teacher exhale and bring their shoulders down a little bit.
Yeah, puberty is the hardware upgrade.
You got it. Just a very loud bit of hardware and a very, very bumpy upgrade.
It can be. Metallica sales are on the rise. Like the school where I teach, Metallica is like one of the biggest bands going right now.
Cool.
Anyway, all of these things, listeners, this is why this book belongs in Beard's Book Club, because 10 to 25 is not just about kids, though. It's about cultivating environments that make growth, really any type of growth, possible.
And it's a communication book disguised as a developmental one. It's also a gentle call out. If your leadership relies on authority or protection, you'll miss out on that mentorship moment.
Yeah. So here's our challenge for this book. We don't do this often, Jason, but let's throw out a challenge here. Pick up the book, consider the podcast as you consider the podcast. Sorry. Ask yourself, when are you enforcing things? When are you protecting things? And how might you find that third path?
And that's the invitation. Let's rethink how we talk, teach, and tune the humans around us, particularly those adolescent kids.
Yeah. So next week, we'll unpack like the chapters. We'll listen to David Yeager talk about his experience, who he is, where this book came from, and some of the high level points too. And, we'll have some fun with it too. Like you guys are going to love his sort of approach. And by the end, maybe we'll see those ages 10 to 25, not as the years we survived, but the years that shaped every bit of who we became. And in fact, reflect that back into the people that we lead, whether we're leading millennial younger employees or whether we're in a school teaching these kids within this age group.
Totally. So if you're reading or listening along, tag us with your mentor moments. We'd love to hear them. We'd like to get some provocations out there and hear about these, middle school moments and how maybe this new mindset has affected you. We look forward to that conversation.
Yeah. So, as we like to say, Jason, subscribe, share, bring a friend into Beard's Book Club. Maybe this is the book you choose to go deep into. We really hope it is, because we're thrilled to have him on. He's been doing the rounds. This book's been making quite a splash all over the place. So, Jason, why don't you bring us home?
So in the meantime, keep leading and reading the Lasso way. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right. Thanks, folks. Good to see you, Jason.
Grab your coffee, grab your seat. It's time to learn, it's time to meet. Garth and Jason setting the tone. Leadership lessons to take back home. Lassoing leadership. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show with lessons from Ted.